We were talking about Avraham Avinu being the one that recognized or spoke to Hashem as Adain, as the master of the world. From there we got to Leah, that thanked Hashem, which is the name Yehuda, that was truly acknowledging that she has 4 sons instead of only 3. In the end she had 6. I want talking about names, so now we're getting into another limud, another teaching about names. Rus, regarding Rus, what's my Rus? What's the name Rus? What's the significance of this name? Omer Rabbi Yochanan, shezachsa, she merited, the Yatsa mimenu David, he satiated or filled up Hashem with praises and singing to Hashem. Rus, and the word of satiated or filled up, rivuhu is from the same word. That's why she's called Rus. Minolan dishma gadim. How do we know that the name is what causes it? In other words, because her name was Rus, so as a result, she ended up having a descendant that satiated or filled Hashem with praises and song. Come see the wonders of Hashem, which puts Shameis ba'aretz. The Gemara learns, I'll take Shameis el Shemeis. It's the names, that's the vision, so to speak, the future, where Hashem says a certain person gets a name. It's really indicative of what they could end up to be like. That's why we say that names are nevuah ktana, because the parents choose a name. There's really, hopefully, potential there. I mean, hopefully, more than potential, actual of how they'll be like. You're saying it's not a guarantee. Okay. This is a very interesting Gemara here. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Hashem ben Yechai, when there is a bad, let's call it a child who's behaving very bad, going off the path, it's more difficult than the wars of Gog and Magog, which is an extreme statement. Why is it worse? These are big wars of kings versus other kings. He's going to explain. It says regarding David, let me clarify something. The Gemara is now going to prove its statement. Why do you say that having a child that goes in a bad way or is behaving terribly is worse than the wars of Gog and Magog? Because look at David HaMelech, how he describes or talks about his son. He had a son who was very difficult, to say the least, Avshalom. Uksiv Basrei, it says afterwards, Hashem, what? Correct. So he was rebelling against his father and causing a lot of suffering to David HaMelech. He had to run away and so on. So in Tehillim we say, the song of Tehillim to David, because of Avshalom or about Avshalom, and then it talks about him running away. After that verse it says, Hashem mo rabu tzarai, rabim komim alai. He bemoans his situation. He says, how many sufferings, pains do I have? Many have stood against me or risen against me. So David HaMelech has a son like Avshalom. He's rebelling against him and causing a tremendous hardship and difficulty for him. And he talks about it as being many pains and many have risen up against him. When it talks about the wars of Gog and Magog, it says, why do Goyim cause the commotion, or why do nations blow in vain? But the point is that you have a very different expression when it talks about wars of Gog and Magog. It doesn't say how many are my pains like it does for his son. So you see that having a son that goes off and is rebellious and bad is worse than even these great wars. Once we're talking about this, the Gemara continues. It says, we just mentioned that David HaMelech has a song, Solomon Tehillim, about running away from his son of Shalom, which obviously was not fun, to say the least. He was running for his life. The Gemara says, Mizmor LeDavid. It's a song for David. Kina LeDavid Nevoyele. It should have said it's a lament, like on Tisha B'Av, we said Kinos, lamenting. It's bemoaning the sad situation that he has such a son. That's singing. The Gemara tells us a very fascinating thing. Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Avishalim, which is interesting that it's the son of Avishalim, a different Avishalim, but he's explaining this answer. Mashal Lama Davar Dema. What is this compared to? La'adam sheyatza alav shtar chayv, a person that has a document of debt that's being given to him. He now owes something. He knows he's going to have to pay it. So kaidem shepra ya'atziv. After before he paid it, he was sad. How is he going to pay it? Where is he going to get it from? What are the losses going to be like? But after he paid it, now he's happy because it's taken care of, and the losses are either not that big or not as he expected, and so on. What's the comparison? David HaMelech had a similar situation with Avshalom. And this is going to tell us why he praises Hashem and doesn't bemoan Hashem, even though it's such a terrible thing. Hashem told David that I am going to put up evil against you from within your own house. So he was told, and he understood that it's going to happen. He was sad. Omar, he said, Shema Eved, Imam Zerhu, who knows what Hashem is referring to? Maybe it's going to be a slave. Maybe it's going to be a illegitimate child who's not going to care about me. How could that be? He's any scenario that may end up in his house. First of all, it could be not from him. In other words, Mamzer in his palace. No, but in other words, one of his wives, in theory, that could be such a thing. Hopefully not. But he's saying, when I heard it, I had no idea how this is going to play out. It could be someone that doesn't care about me. It could be an Eved. It could be someone else. And so he was sad because this could be very bad. But Kivan the Chazad of Shalimu. Once he saw that it's Avshalom, that's the one. Okay, we're talking about my son. Samach. He rejoiced. Okay, it could have been way worse. I knew something had to happen. It could have been in a situation. Now the reality is that his son Avshalom didn't that his son Avshalom was not nice to him, but nonetheless he felt that when I heard about the bad news that someone is going to rebel against me, I said it could be Evan. It could be someone that could completely throw me out. So therefore, he was happy, and when he speaks about it, he says Mizmar in the psalm, and he's praising. It's true. It doesn't just say that he said Mizmar. He says Samach or Simach. He was literally happy. He rejoiced. There's different ways that you could answer this. Obviously, it requires explanation. Because first of all, the end of Shalom was not nice to him. It was quite difficult. Yeah, he wanted it. It wasn't that bad because it was his son, but apparently, comparative to what it may have ended up being, he had a very positive spin on it, to the extent that he was rejoicing. Okay. Now let's talk about the wicked. It's a very interesting. Try not to get into politics. But everything is in Gemara. Rabbi Yechanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the author of the Zohar, he says as follows: you're allowed to start up with or attack the wicked in this world. This doesn't mean you could go over to anyone that's not behaving properly and hurt them. But as we'll soon see some examples, we're talking about nations of the world or others that are behaving badly. You don't have to worry about what's a good word for the hisgares. That's next line. The next line, the Gemara gives another explanation that's what it could mean. But at this stage, So the Gemara will get to that as two other options to compete with them or to be like them. But in this stage right now, I could attack them. Yeah. How do you know that you're allowed to do that? Because it says those that who praises a wicked person, who says wicked are good. Those are the ones that those that have left the Torah. In other words, they're not following the ways of the Torah. They could say, "Oh, the wicked are good," or they find some praise for the wicked. But the Shemrei Torah, those that keep Torah, Yisgarubam, there on the contrary, they're going to be against them. They're not going to, love evil. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned similar in a Braisa, an unpublished Mishnah. Rabbi Deistoi, Rabbi Maton Eimer, Mutil is Gares B'Rashem Belam Haze. In this world, you're allowed to go against. I'm looking for the right word for this. Gares is a better word than that. In Rishayim in this world, Shenemar, as the verse says, Eiz Ve'Teira Yehalalu Rasha. So in Yiddish you say rates. In Yiddish it would be rates, not unrates. Tease, but it's not. Leave them alone. Okay, so how do you say it in English? So fight, a war, start up with them. Yeah. There's an adjective that describes it. Yeah. Okay, so we learned a similar thing in a Braisa, where he says you're allowed to do it, and the proof that he brings is from the same verse. That those that forsake the Torah, those are the ones that praise the Rasha, that praise the wicked one. And if a person is going to whisper to you, Loimar is going to tell you, what's going to happen if you are following this teaching and you're not concerned to start up or to tease or to go against someone that's wicked? Someone else will come along and whisper in your ear and say, hey, it says a different verse. Don't be with those wicked ones, and don't be jealous of those that do wicked or that do bad. And Merla, you should tell him, the guy comes over to you and says, hey, why are you starting up with the wicked people? There's a verse that says that you shouldn't really have anything to do with them. So you tell that person, it speaks like that. The guys that are worried about their own sins and they think that maybe they belong to the category of the wicked, so they're coming along and saying, hey, don't start up with the wicked. Russia is not Shem it's a different level. Yeah, someone that doesn't keep is not today's day and age. Is not really a Russia. Talking about someone that left. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in summary, there are three levels here. You have one category of those that one explanation: don't start up with them. And we basically say you're allowed to start up with them. And if someone tells you, "Hey, don't," tell them you're concerned that you maybe belong to them. That was one explanation. But because we have this back and forth, seemingly contradiction between verses, on one hand it says to do it, and the other side, on the other hand it says not to. Don't be like the wicked. We learn it a little bit differently. Not don't start up with them, but that verse, which seems as a contradiction, is really telling you don't be like them. Don't be jealous of those that are doing bad. Don't be jealous of the sins. Rather, have fear of heaven the whole day. Sometimes you see a person who's misbehaving, doing the wrong thing, and you may think to yourself, hey, it's pretty good, he has a good life, or he's enjoying himself, or whatever it may be, don't do that. It's not the case. How could you learn that that's the meaning of the verse? But we learned that Rabbi Yitzchak said, if you see a wicked person, and it seems like things are going good for him, in other words, temporarily, he's scamming the world and everything's going good, don't start up with him. It says your paths should be positive or joyous always. He's meritorious in judgment. Not only that, but there'll come a time and you'll see that the wicked are going to suffer. So we have multiple contradictions of how the attitude or the relationship is with those that are wicked. On the one hand, we're saying that we don't. Who praises wicked people? Someone that's left the way, forsaken the proper ways. They praise the wicked. Otherwise, you shouldn't be concerned about standing up for what's right or saying that what they're doing is wrong. You'll see the Russia in their wicked. In other words, right now you see that they seem to be very successful. They're stealing and they're enjoying a certain type of life, for example. And then you'll find out, will come a time that the wheel will switch, will turn, and there's going to be the proper justice, and you'll be able to see it. Don't be jealous or wish for that lifestyle. But we have nonetheless multiple contradictions that we're answering with a deichek, kind of squeezing it in. Okay, this means this thing, or this means something else. But ultimately, there are different verses which, on the surface, they're not consistent one with another. So how do we understand this? So the Gemara says, like kasha, haba miladi day, haba miladi shmaya. There's a difference. If you're talking about things that are in your own behaviors, or in the behaviors of between you and Hashem. So let's see. I think it means there's certain behaviors that are not appropriate, but you're not going against Hashem when you do it. It's whatever for you shouldn't be doing that, but you can't. You're not truly rebelling against Hashem. So B'nam Lachaver is also against Hashem, against Shmaya, really. I don't know. I'm thinking. We're saved by the bell, and we'll answer this question, and we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. Thanks for joining.